Okay, I made a mistake, so I had to turn off the video. So here I am ready to do another connection object, so it starts there. I'm going to try and hit that node there, come back to this node, but if I click on it, sometimes it won't go there, so I click somewhere else and then match it up. Okay, and then I'm going to go all the way over to this node here, or the end of the boundary box. And I'll try and just make that look a little better. I'm going to accept that. In my sketch, I had this, I believe I had this one going, a little more pleasing curve, so I'm just going to pull that up. Yeah, that'll look better. Okay, now I'll press enter. Okay, let's go down now and see what it looks like on our preview area. Okay, it looks pretty good. It's a little bit not very pleasing right there where the curve comes up, and if I weren't trying to get this all done in the video, I could probably fix that a little bit. But overall, it looks pretty good, and I can live with that for now. Okay, that's done. Now I want to make sure that I am saving it and making sure the parameters are okay. So I go over to the parameter area, right-click or Control-P. I go to the parameters, and I'm not going to change anything in here because I'll change that later when I use the border. But in the global parameters, which is the shield, I want to make sure I give it a name, and I'm going to call it cherries. And I'm going to put 1 because I have a bunch of them now. And I'm going to change the, actually, the minimum stitch length to 1 because 0.5 is very small. I'm going to leave the reference width at 5 because I'll change that when I use the border. And I'm going to leave everything else as is. For the connections, I'm also going to change the minimum length to 1. Okay, so that's all okay. So apply and OK generates my stitches. The last thing I have to do is save the border. So I go to Design, Border, Save Border As, and I'm going to put them right here for now because that's where I want it. So cherries 1. It helps if you just use the same name and parameters in the end, or in the save as. Okay, that all looks pretty good. And the last thing I can do, I've generated the stitches. It's always a good idea to first of all have a look and just see what the jump looks like. This one's okay. The dotted line means that's where the machine's going to continue the next iteration of the border, so that's all right. I didn't know that when I first started doing these. I kept trying to get rid of it. And the other thing we can do is generate, we can look at it in 3D and see how it looks, and we can also simulate the stitches, and that's always a good idea. I'll move it up to 20. And sometimes you'll catch a little error that you can see when it does the stitch out. It only does one repeat of the border, so you can't catch everything. But anyway, overall that looks better, and that's just a simple border with only connections and column objects. Before we move on to actually using this border, I just did want to show you something. I'm hoping these videos can save you some of the aggravation that I've had while trying to learn this. If I really, really blow this up, I thought it looked okay in the lines, but when I really, really blow it up large, I can see that some of my lines aren't connecting. This was a connection line right there. It should be moved up a little bit. This doesn't quite match up because I didn't have a node there, and it would have been better to have a node. So it's good to go back and do some tweaking. On the bottom here, the matchup between the beginning and the end, I had already done a little fixing on it, but it still isn't perfect. So in the stitch out that I'm going to show you in the next part of the video, I have fixed these. So overall, just really take a good look not only at the top part where you're actually digitizing it, but sometimes some things appear in the preview area. So take a look at both and then go back and fix a few nodes. I don't know if you can see this on the computer or the video, but for instance right here my node didn't quite go to the very end. Sometimes you get fooled by the little boxes, and so that needed to go right over to the very end. I know this is probably a bit hard to see on the video. Another area that I found that I wasn't happy with, right here, this was a connection, and really that needed to be pulled up a little bit. Sometimes these appear to be minor, especially in the small scale of borders, but if you can fix them up, you'll be happier when you go to test it. Okay, we're on to the testing stage now.